All right, let's talk about one of the trickiest things in the entire startup world. How do you put a price tag on a company that hasn't made a single dollar yet? It's this huge question mark for pretty much every founder and early stage investor out there. I mean, think about it. You've got this game-changing idea, a killer team. You know you're onto something big, but the sales column is just empty. So where do you even start? How do you actually turn all that potential into a number that an investor can write on a check? Well, our source material for this explainer from author Nataraja has this really brilliant way of looking at it. Think of valuation as a bridge. It's what connects the amazing story of your startup, your vision, your team, all that potential, to the cold, hard numbers that investors really need to see. So let's start by taking a walk across that bridge. Because before we even touch a spreadsheet or a formula, we have to understand what it really means to put a value on a story in the first place. See, for these brand new pre-revenue companies, all the traditional methods just get thrown out the window. Things like discounted cash flow, they just don't work. You literally can't discount cash flow when there is no cash flow. So we need a totally different toolkit, one that's all about those qualitative things, the team, the market, and translating that future promise into a number we can actually use today. And that brings us to this classic solution, something developed by the very people who have to solve this puzzle every single day, angel investors. It's called the Scorecard Method. Now, this isn't some new fad that just popped up. The Scorecard Method has been around for over 2 decades. It started as an idea, got detailed in books, and was eventually adopted by major angel groups. It became a trusted, battle-tested tool for making sense of these super early-stage deals. So here's what the original method looks like. It breaks the valuation down into 7 key areas. But the most telling part? Just look at that first line. Strength of the team gets a massive 30% weight. That tells you everything you need to know. At this stage, investors are betting on the people, maybe even more than the idea itself. And how it works is actually pretty simple. First, you figure out a baseline. You find the average valuation for startups that are kind of like yours in your same region. Then you score your company against that average company using those 7 factors. And finally, you just multiply. It's a system for turning all that subjective gut feeling into a real number. So let's see how this plays out with an actual example from our source. Let's say the average valuation for a similar company is $1.5 million. The company being scored gets an 83% across all of those criteria. You multiply them together, and boom, you get a pre-revenue valuation of just under $1.25 million. A concrete number, all from a qualitative story. But here's where our story takes a really critical turn. Having a method is great, but is it the right method for today? To answer that, you have to look at the tough stuff. Why do most startups actually fail? I mean, really think about it. This method was basically finalized back around 2011. The startup world, technology, the market, it's all changed so dramatically since then. So the big question is, does a scorecard from over a decade ago still measure what really leads to success today? And if you look at the data from CB Insights, you start to see the problem. These are the real-world reasons startups die. Number 1, they run out of cash. Right behind that is that nobody actually wanted their product. Then you've got getting outcompeted and having a flawed business model. These are the absolute killers. And this gets us right to the core argument from our source material. The author, Nataraja points out that the original scorecard pretty much overlooks the very things that are now the most common reasons a startup goes under. So what's the fix? Well, we need a new scorecard, one that's been updated for the real world that startups have to survive in today. And this slide is the big aha moment. Just look at the evolution. On the left, you've got the old method. On the right, the new modified version. And you immediately see these huge new additions: business model, organization culture, and financial modeling and unit economics. These new factors directly target the top reasons we just saw for why startups fail. So why are these new factors so incredibly important? Well, think about it. A broken business model means you just can't scale, no matter how good your product is. A toxic company culture? That's a silent killer. It drives your best people away. And bad unit economics? That means you might be losing money on every single customer you bring in. You're not building a business. You're just burning cash faster and faster. And what's really crucial here is the shift in importance, in the weighting. In this new model, the power of the idea and the business model are now tied for the top spot, each getting 20%. The team is still incredibly important, that 15%, but this new model recognizes a hard truth. Even the world's best team is going to struggle to save a fundamentally broken business. So what happens when you run the numbers through this new, tougher scorecard? Well, using that same $1.5 million average, the company's score actually drops to 75%. The new valuation is just over $1.1 million. It's a more sober number for sure, but it's arguably a much more realistic picture of the company's actual value. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. When we zoom out and look at the whole thing, what does it all really mean? Ultimately, what this all comes down to is that a valuation isn't just the answer that pops out of a formula. A really good, smart valuation is a story in itself. It's a complete assessment of everything, from the big, exciting idea all the way down to the nitty-gritty details of company culture and whether you actually make money on each sale. As the author wraps it up, the key is to stop thinking about valuation as just a math problem. It demands a holistic approach. You have to look at how all the different pieces of the business fit together to create something that can actually last and succeed. So whether you're a founder trying to build your pitch deck or you're an investor trying to analyze your next deal, just remember this. Your valuation is so much more than a number. It's the whole narrative of your company's future. So the real question is, what story are you telling?